Okay, today's October 11th, 2011. You're on your blue notebook, page 133. What's the text number? Anyone know? Okay. We're going to go into the three major forms of linear equations. So, first one we have point. Sorry, that's not the one I want to start with. Slope y-intercept. Okay, and slope y-intercept form is written y is equal to mx plus b. Okay, something you're already supposed to be very familiar with. That's our first form. Our second form, we're going to call standard form. Okay, that linear equation is written as ax plus by plus c equals 0. Okay, and the last one is point slope form. Which is and your point slope form. Okay, now we're going to try to relate these all together. The one that's a little different looking is our standard form. If you notice, we have some different variables. We have an a b, and a c. Okay, we'll talk about what those stand for in a minute. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a equation. I'm going to try manipulating it into all of these forms. Okay, so we'll go on the next page. All right, so we have our example here. They've given us a very long equation. This equation, for example 1, I want you to simplify the equation and put it into slope y-intercept form. So what that means is first we need to collect our like terms. So here are my x variables. Here are my y variables. And finally, these are my constant numbers. There's no variable attached to them. Okay? I'm going to combine my like terms. We'll start with the x's. 3x minus x will give us 2x. 2y minus y will give us positive y. And my constants, now I have one on the other side, but 5 plus 2 is going to give us positive 7. And it's equal to 3. Okay? Now, in order to put into slope y-intercept form, if you guys remember, that's y is equal to mx plus b. What's important about this is the y is by itself on one side of the equation. I know it's the left here, but this same formula can be written the other way. It can be mx plus b equals y. Still the exact same equation. We need to get the y by itself. So in other words, with what I have over here, I want to move the 7 and I want to move the 2x over so that y is by itself on this side of the equation. So we'll end up with y is equal to, I still have the 3. When I bring the 7 over, it becomes negative 7. And when I move the 2x over, it becomes negative 2x. I'm going to simplify my terms. 3 minus 7 is negative 4 minus 2x. So, is this in point slope form right now? Okay, technically it is. We can do everything we need to do with it. You guys are used to seeing it where the x variable's in front of the constant number, which is fine. If you want to rearrange it, it's fine. But right now, I'm okay with what it is. Y equals negative 2x minus 4 is still the exact same equation. So right now, we put it into point slope form. Okay, so we have our y-intercept slope form here. The next thing I'm going to do for b is I now want you to change that into a standard equation. And if you remember, our standard equation is ax plus by plus c equals 0. Okay. So what's important about standard equation is, again, always look to, the side of the equation that has the least amount of numbers or variables on it. Before we looked at just the y, so we knew we had to set it equal to y. In this one, the equation just needs to be set equal to 0. So I'm going to take my equation from above, y equals negative 2x minus 4. I need to set it equal to 0. Well, if I move the y over, what will be left on this side? 0. Nothing will be left. So I'll have 0 is equal to negative 2x minus 4 minus y. Now again, technically this is almost standard form, but we're going to rearrange it so our x variable comes first and our y second. So we get 0 is equal to negative 2x minus y minus 4. And the one last thing I want to show you is in your standard forms, I would prefer it if your leading coefficient, so that's our a, is positive. So how can I make this negative 2 positive? If I multiply this entire equation by negative 1, okay? If I multiply every number in the equation by negative 1, so I'll be times negative 1, times negative 1, times negative 1, and times negative 1. Whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other in equation. This is fine. What's 0 times negative 1? Negative 2x times negative 1. Negative y times negative 1 plus y. And negative 4 times negative 1 plus 4. So it's pretty much the exact same equation, except all the signs have changed. And in this one, our leading coefficient 2 is positive, which is what I want for standard form. I want our leading coefficient to be positive. Okay, our second example is point slope form. Now this form is to be used when you have this type of information. If you have m, which is the slope, so we're going to say our slope is 1 over 3, and you have a coordinate, okay? Not the y-intercept, because if you have the y-intercept, you can put it into slope y-intercept form. This is called point slope form. So we have a slope and we have a point. Let's say our point, they'll call point A, is at 2 and 4. Okay? So what I want is, I know I've called them x2 and x1. We'll call it x2, sorry, and y2. This formula could also be written with this as x1 and y1. Either one's fine. We're going to plug those variables in. So we're going to plug m in. I'm going to plug in my x for x and my y for y. So our y2 is 4, subtract y is equal to 1/3 times, where's x? 2 minus x, okay? Now what I'm going to do is distribute and try to solve this equation. I'm going to turn point slope form and I'm going to change it into slope y-intercept, okay? So we're going to change it to, let's put that down here. We're going to go from point slope to slope y-inter, okay? So I need to know my distributive rule. I need to distribute my third into both of these. 4 minus y is equal to 2 over 3 minus 1/3 x. Okay? So I've done that so far. Now, I need to move my 4 to the other side. Now, I'm going to show you guys a trick here. I have a fraction on the right side of the equation. And I'm assuming most people would like to work with whole numbers. Okay? So I need to essentially eliminate this 3. In order to do that, if I, again, multiply the entire equation, this time if I multiply it by 3, it will get rid of my fractions on the side. So when I multiply 3 into each term, that's supposed to go to the 4. 4 times 3. What's 3 times negative y? Negative 3y. Now here's the trick. 2/3 times 3 is 2. What's going to happen is this 3 and this 3 will cancel out. We're just left with that term. 2. And what about 3 times 1/3? Just 1. The 3's will disappear and we'll have negative 1x. Okay? So I've now gotten rid of all of my fractions. You might not have to do that every time. We just did it this time to simplify. Now I'm trying to get the slope y-intercept form. So what do I have to set this equal to? Y. Not 3y, just y. Our y-intercept form, remember, is y equals mx plus b. So I need to get y by itself. So I'm going to move the 12 to the other side of the equation. So we end up with negative 3y is equal to 2 minus x minus 12. And we're going to simplify. So we get negative 3y is equal to, I'm just going to make that negative x, okay, guys? 2 subtract 12. Okay. And again, we got to get y by itself. So I'm going to have to divide both sides of the equation by negative 3. I'm going to divide every term by negative 3. So our equation ends up being y, these 3's cancel each other out, is equal to negative 1 over negative 3x, and minus 10 over 3, because, negative 10, sorry, I'll rewrite it like this, so it makes sense to you guys. Minus negative 10 over 3. Okay? Now I'm going to simplify this a little. I have a negative on top and bottom of the fraction, so what does that make the fraction? Positive. So I have 1/3 x. And I have two negatives beside each other. I can simplify that by putting a positive 10 over 3. So in my slope y-intercept form, I've changed the equation to this. Okay? All right, so we have this equation. Our next step is I would like you guys to change this to standard form. Again, if you guys remember, that's ax plus by plus c equals 0. Okay? What's going on? How come I can't scroll up? Yeah. There we go. So, we went from point slope to slope y-intercept, and now we're going to standard. And we'll write those little equations in there, just so you guys remember them. y2 minus y1, mx2 minus x. Standard is ax plus by plus c equals 0. Okay, so to turn our above equation, we're still working with the same one, y equals 1/3 x plus 10 over 3, into standard form. I need to set it equal to 0. It's pretty easy to go from slope y-intercept to standard. All I got to do is move the y over. When I move the y over, we'll be left with 0 on that side of the equation. So we will get 0 is equal to 1/3 x. Negative y, I'll go right into the standard form we're used to seeing, x then y, then the constant, 10 over 3. Now the other little rule I want from standard form is I want our leading coefficient to be positive. I also want it to be a whole number. Okay? So here I have a fraction and a fraction. I want the leading coefficient, I want to be positive and a whole number. Okay? So, in order to do that in this equation, how can I get rid of these little 3's, these fractions of the denominator 3? Multiply everything in the equation, just like we did above, by 3. So let's start with the first one. What would 3 times 0 be? 0. That's when we did this, 3 times 0. What is 3 times 1/3? 1. So we're going to have 1x. What is 3 times negative y? Negative 3y. And what is 3 times 10 over 3? Anyone? Positive 10. So our standard form, I'm going to get rid of that little 1 in front of the x because we really don't need it. 0 equals x minus 3y plus 10. And we're in standard form. Our leading coefficient's positive, and it's a whole number, 1. That's it. Okay, your homework tonight. Your homework from the textbook was page 114. What were the numbers? Okay, then I'll add 2 more. 3 more. I'll add 3 more. Oh, 18 and what? Oh, that's right. There we go. Okay, I want you guys to realize, this is very important. These ones pertain to information we've learned before. They're about triangles, which you guys have done before. The homework from the blue notebook focuses on what we did today. 111 to 117, I want you to do those questions. Okay? If you have questions tomorrow, bring it back. Now, these ones will seem a little more far removed. They don't really pertain to what I just taught you, but you did learn that stuff before for the quiz. You're going to need to know it again for the chapter test. This pertains to today's stuff. Okay? There's quite a bit of work there, but I'm giving you a lot of time to work on it.